That is the largest drop-off in NBA history by that year's MVP. And then James Harden. He struggled. Yet another elimination game where he did so. He now has 6 games shooting under 30% from the field when facing elimination, the most in the shot clock era. And that all brings us to Doc Rivers. He has lost 10 Game 7s in his career. No other coach in NBA history has more than 5. Rivers has lost each of the last 5 Game 7s he has coached. So take a look at this. Here's where the 76ers stand. They have Joel Embiid locked up for 4 more years through 2027. But then it gets dicey. James Harden has a player option this offseason and could become a free agent. Tobias Harris is entering the last year of his contract, and PJ Tucker has 2 more years. So bringing Ramona Shelburne into this conversation. Ramona, can you explain a little bit here? Where does Philadelphia exactly go from here?
Well, they have to start with the decision. Do you want to move forward with James Harden and Joel Embiid as your pairing? Is this your superstar pairing moving forward? Because James Harden can become a free agent, which means that you have to decide if you want to give him a 4-year contract. You want to lock this in for the next 4 years. And that decision, from what I understand, talking to people around the Celtics, also now becomes tied to the decision about Doc Rivers, because James Harden was not all that supportive of Doc Rivers in his press conference yesterday. I think behind the scenes, from what I told, that one person said to me, it'd be hard for me to see James wanting to come back and play for Doc again. This is going to be a situation where those 2 decisions are linked. And as we go forward into this offseason, and you have another second-round exit, you have to decide if you want to lock in your future around those 2 guys. And then if you're doing that, what does that mean for Doc Rivers? Because the decisions seem to be linked.
A whole lot of questions surrounding the Philadelphia 76ers. Which one to you is the biggest, Richard?
Oh, we're going to break it down, ladies and gentlemen, because we got a lot to talk about. All the text chains, everything's been going off about Doc Rivers, about James Harden, about Joel Embiid, all of these things. And ladies and gentlemen, there's context missing. And I'm not going to sit up here and defend Doc Rivers. But at the same point in time, let's tell a little bit about Doc Rivers' story. So here, look, 2015, right? They lose in 7. CP, he didn't have Chris Paul for the first 2 games of that series, right? That's tough. You get it. You still got to be able to make adjustments. But they're missing an all-NBA point guard. 2017, Blake Griffin, their all-star, doesn't play in that series at all. Again, Blake Griffin with a history of injury. We now know Chris Paul has a history of injury. But back in 2015, 2017, but what did they do? In 2020, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go get Kawhi Leonard. This guy is clutch. We know what Kawhi Leonard did, because look what he did against Philly. Watch this shot. Boop, 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 boop. Drops, right? So we're going to go get one of the best 4th quarter finishers out there. Do you know what Kawhi Leonard and Paul George did in the bubble? Let me tell you, I was there. That had nothing to do with Doc. You can talk about adjustments, but I was just as shocked as Doc when I saw Paul George shoot the ball off the side of the backboard. That ain't coaching. So then you go, look, East semis against Atlanta. Look, that's a tough one. What are you doing? That's Ben Simmons. That's where Ben Simmons didn't do any of the things that we talked about. His scoring. Where was Ben Simmons? Why did he not go up and shoot this? Yes. So now, in hindsight, we look back, Ben Simmons been still struggling with some things. So you know what? Fine. We're going to go get James Harden instead of Ben Simmons. Well, let's compare their 4th quarters. 2021, 2023. James Harden's led the league in scoring. Ben Simmons has never been known as a scorer. Look at these numbers. 2 for 4, 3 for 11. In Game 7, if anything, I would argue that Ben had a better Game 7 than James Harden did. And look at this. Harden scored 0 points in the 4th quarter of Game 5, of Game 6, of Game 7. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, Doc Rivers deserves a hell of a lot of that blame pie, but some of these individual performances go right along with those struggles that Doc Rivers is a part of. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George struggling. The injuries to Blake Griffin and Chris Paul. And then you watch these 2 guys struggle in the 4th quarter. Like, Doc, man, some of this is your fault, but I also feel for you, big fella. I feel for you.
Well, the Celtics eliminate the 76ers. Thank you, Richard, which means that the Celtics move on to the Final Four. I can't call it the Final Four,
yes,
but it is. It feels too college, right?
NBA.
Who is going to win it all? Is it the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Celtics, or the Heat? Let us know. We're going to reveal the results in 60 seconds.
Is it true?
Why, you feel any different?
Give us a percentage chance.
Oh, my God.
That the Lakers are going to come out of the West.
100% chance. poke bears. He didn't poke the bear at all. This is the picture right here. He poured honey on him. That's what Dylan Brooks did. He poured honey. He poured honey on himself. Because that bear's coming. That bear's LeBron James.
Dylan Brooks picks up James. He wanted James. He gets him. James drives. James is fouled and one. LeBron.
What percentage chance do you give the Warriors to come back and win this series?
Zero. They're done. But let's talk about the Los Angeles Lakers and how they're legit title contenders.
Do we need 9 graphics to show the same thing? First of all, it's been a very confusing day in the family, the Jefferson household, because of Perk. First of all, like I had, to explain Ja, then I had to explain why their favorite rapper from Doggyland, Snoop Dogg, is going after Dad. Right, Snoop, my bad.
Well, explain your body language when I was trying to tell you.
It was just hearing your voice.
From LeBron James. But he's still the leader of the team. He's still the guy getting them organized. And when it comes down to it, like he did in the elimination game against the Warriors, he's the guy getting his 30 points, 9 assists, 9 rebounds. So they match up from a talent standpoint. They match up from a defensive versatility standpoint. And they're a legit team. They can win this series.
All right, so when we look at the Denver Nuggets, I mean, they're fighting history coming into this series. 0-7 versus the Lakers in the playoffs. But unlike in 2020, the roles are reversed here. The Lakers are the lower seed this time. Why will the Nuggets, in terms of their depth, how will that be key for them here in this series?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's the depth, but it's also the lineup versatility. On the Lakers side, they kind of have to make a decision. Are they going to go with a defensive-based lineup, say with a Jared Vanderbilt? If they do, they compromise offense and spacing. Are they going to go with an offensive lineup with a Dennis Schroeder and a D'Angelo Russell and put shooting on the court? If they do, they compromise defense. The Nuggets don't have to do that. They can play defensive-oriented lineups that can switch defensively, that are able to hold up, and also space the floor as shooters. So they don't have that dilemma. And I think that's the key for the Nuggets. Everything revolves around Nikola Jokic. I think he's the best player in the league, and that's the top bullet point in this series. But the lineup versatility and the depths of lineups that the Nuggets can play, they don't have to compromise as much based on offense, defense, switch-offs. And
it certainly is going to be a good series from that standpoint. Both teams have depth and both getting scoring from all over the lineup. Let's go over to the Eastern Conference. Jimmy Buckets has the Heat into the conference finals for the 3rd time in 4 years, and again, it is a familiar foe. They face the Celtics. Boston needed 7 games to beat them last year. Do you expect this series to be as tight?
Yeah, I think, we should all be out of the business of doubting Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. I've been guilty of it, and Vegas is doing it again. They've got them at plus 1,200. They've got them at 97% chance of the Celtics winning this series. I mean, that's too much. That is too much. I don't know. I'm not a psychic. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I know that it is going to be a battle. Traditionally, Jimmy Butler and the Heat play the Celtics very tough. We can talk about matchups and schematics, but when it comes down to it, there's just something in the DNA of this matchup that tells you this is going to be a tight, hard-fought series. The Celtics do not perform well all the time down the stretch of close games. There's a tendency to play below their level of collective talent, so to speak. And I think if they slip from that, and the Heat, who pretty much always get the most out of their potential, you've got an opportunity for a very tight series. I think the Celtics will win. Maybe that makes me a talent snob. They are clearly the more talented and deeper team, more versatile team. But I'm done. I'm out of the business of doubting Jimmy Butler.
I was going to say, you're towing a dangerous line there, Brad, by picking the Celtics to win there, going against the Miami Heat the way that they've played in these NBA playoffs, certainly over the last few seasons. But when you look at this Celtics team, is it now or never for them at this point? I know we probably said that a few times.